I really recommend people live somewhere else in another country for a time.
Welcome to episode lucky number 7 of the Wild Business Growth Podcast, presented by Hippo Direct. I'm your host, Max Brandstetter, digital marketing dude here at Hippo Direct. And the reason this is episode lucky number 7 is because there was a ton of luck involved in actually recording this episode. So I mentioned a couple episodes ago that was on a little hiatus there during my Euro trip, and while I saw a lot of different countries and a lot of really cool places, I was only able to be in Copenhagen for one day. And pulled a, we'll call it an old Hail Mary here, slid into the DMs, if you will, of Chris Kubby, legendary, big-time marketing influencer, social media influencer, entrepreneur, and founder of kubb&co over in Copenhagen. And he happened to be free that day and was more than willing to record the podcast. Keep in mind, I'm in Europe, so I'm traveling very light. And fortunately, Kubby was happy to host. He was happy to record on his brand new podcast gear that they were testing out because they're getting into the podcast space very soon. And better yet, he had a member of his team, Johnny, who you'll hear referenced in the episode a few times. He's the audio guy, and he was there the whole time monitoring the sound levels and, calling us out every time we screwed up, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, Kubby, Johnny, the whole team was super helpful, super welcoming, and it was truly just a spectacular day recording there. Kubby is an absolute awesome person. What you can expect to hear is about his crazy story growing up in Canada and then moving over to Copenhagen and starting an agency there, what the startup journey is like, what marketing is like in Denmark versus other parts of the world, and even what his favorite 90s sitcom is that he's fully addicted to now. So, without further ado, enjoy the show from Copenhagen. Alrighty, welcome to a extremely special Copenhagen edition of the Wild Business Growth Podcast presented by Hippo Direct. We have an amazing guest today, Chris Kubbernis, aka Kubby. Kubby,
you did it well. Good
Kubby,
job.
as your friends call you, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
So, an amazing guest. I'll say a little bit, and then we'll hand it over to Kubby to give a little bit of his story from his background. Kubby, I discovered you through social media, which I know so many people have, and it's been really cool to see to follow your rise and see sort of how big of an influence you've had in this marketing and social media space, especially. But
thanks, man.
Kubby he's the CEO and founder of multiple companies, but right now kubb&co.
Yep.
A digital agency here in Copenhagen, and a world-renowned international speaker, was one of the early adopters and huge influencers on Snapchat. We can go on and about the intro, but I think you should do the intro for yourself. Since
okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
If you're feeling up to it. So I'll hand it over to
absolutely.
Kubby. You say a little bit about sort of where you came from. What's the biggest thing you're working on now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Canadian. I was born and raised in Calgary, Alberta. I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be in marketing. Actually, I think at age 12, I knew. I asked my parents for a book on the, the 100 or 1,000 top jobs in advertising. And they're like, this is a weird kid. Like, why does he want this book? But okay. So they gave me the book, and I started researching, advertising jobs and what was the whole thing about.
Yep. And
I was super into drawing and art. So I think they were trying to push me in sort of a commercial way towards something that could make money, not just, being a starving artist. So at 12, I knew I sort of wanted to do that. At 14, I was actually an intern at an ad agency. Did that for a bit. At 18, I had sort of my own small business making graphic design, posters, websites. Like, that was really big back then. Yep. Everybody wanted a website. Everybody wanted Flash intros. So I was making all this kind of stuff at a very young age. And I went to university, got my degree in communications, and then from there I went and worked for a venture capital company, so a VC.
Yep.
And I helped them basically turn around and rebrand a bunch of their different properties, a bunch of different companies they had. And then from there I moved to Copenhagen and started working with an ad agency for a couple of years, headed up their digital department, and then I went and worked for a client, so client side, as they say. and did that for a couple of years, and then went to another client for a few years. And then in January of 2016, I was like, all right, I want to make my own agency. I want to do that. So I founded KubbAndCo, and it's been a rocket ship ride ever since.
Wow. And
Yeah.
here we are, and it feels like a rocket ship, too. It's an awesome place you got it.
Thanks. It does. Some days it feels like a rocket ship. Sometimes it feels like a sinking ship.
That's amazing. Well, hopefully it's more rocket for this
Yes.
edition.
Yeah, thank you.
But did you always know that you wanted to start your own agency, or was it not until that sort of 2016 moment?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It came in ebbs and flows, because I had the thought actually when I was working for the agency when I first got to Denmark that, okay, maybe I could make my own. And then I went and worked client side, and then you get sort of in that zone, and I thought, okay, you know what? My big dream is to be the CMO of a giant company, maybe the CMO of Apple or the CMO of Google or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
So I started working towards that. And it wasn't until I was 36 years old, and honestly, I had this kind of moment. I was in my boss's office, and he was yelling at me about some crap, like literally like something that didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't need this shit. I honestly don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked out. I literally just walked out. And from that day forward, I said, okay, what do you want to do, Kubby? And I put the pieces in place. And by Christmas that year, I was out and starting my own thing, right? In January 1st, 2016, I did KubbAndCo. So,
Awesome.
I mean, yeah, it was kind of that moment. I should go back and thank him for being a dickhead, because like, I'm sorry if I'm swearing on your podcast.
No, we're
okay,
explicit, so you can
that's
do that.
good. But I should go back and thank him for being a jerk, because he really he opened my eyes and sort of made me see that this is not the path I want.
Yeah.
And started to do my own path. So yeah.
Awesome. So thank you to the dickhead.
Yes, exactly. I'm
dickheads.
gonna send him a gift. I'm gonna thank you, dickhead, as the card.
That's where it all started.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So on that agency front, what's been the biggest rough patches along the way, like the biggest challenges you've seen, and also what's been your favorite parts of your agency journey so far?
Yeah, I mean, losing clients has been rough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't have a perfect track record.
Yep.
We lost a client last year at about this time, a large client. It was kind of half of our revenues at that point.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't anything that we did, actually. It was the company actually shut down their marketing department completely.
Oh, wow.
They had switched strategy. They were going into sort of a hunkered down kind of mode.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to spend on marketing at all. It's a fairly large company, actually. It does quite a bit of revenue, and they were just happy with that and wanted to ride out some sort of storm. So
wow.
So they cut us loose, and that was like whoa, okay, what do I do now, and sort of how do I turn it in the right ways? I had these hiring plans. I had a few people on staff that I was like, what do I do about these people? So that was a bit rough, and I think that there's always rough periods in business, and I think people have to understand that it's not all rainbows and sunshine and unicorns. It's a struggle. I mean, some days I look at the bank account, I'm like, oh man, I hope we can make payroll.
Yep.
Right? I mean, and we do, obviously, like it all comes together, but I mean, we're still a startup.
Yep.
There's nobody funding us. It's all organic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you're responsible for putting food and rent, paying people's rent and helping them do that, I mean, that's a lot of responsibility. So you have to rise to that challenge and make it work, and it's a struggle. Some of the best moments have just been, adding. I really like adding people to the team.
Yeah.
New clients are awesome, and I love that. But when we find people that are really good at what they do and really fit with us culturally, that's the best feeling for me. It feels more like growth when we add people. It feels more like the family is growing, like we're able to do much more now. We're able to do this, we're able to do that. So for me, the highlights have been great hires, great people. I mean, moving into a new office space. I mean, you see around here, like expanding. We've added an extra 800 square meters to our office, doing that sort of thing. That's really, for me, I look back and I go, holy crap, like we've actually done quite a bit in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to reflect. I think that's also like good advice for any business, to also look back and see where have you come from, right? Like, good. It's always good to focus on what you're doing next, but I think it's also good to look at, wow, we've come a long way.
Yeah, totally.
Right? So,
yeah, and you hear so many people talk about embracing the journey and sort of enjoy. You don't want to just like wait till the end and there's a big parade and like, oh,
yeah, there is no parade.
Yeah,
I mean that's the truth, right? Like
Yep.
you have to make the parade every day in some ways, or don't, and just like realize that okay, this is a crappy situation and deal with it. But there's always going to be those ups and downs, right?
Right.
And those people that don't jump out, the people that just like have the highest pain threshold,
Mm-hmm.
those are the ones that typically do better in
Wow.
business.
Yeah, that's so true. And we're gonna have the meters to feet conversion for all our American listeners on the square footage.
Yeah. That's I think it's what is that? Do we know what's the square footage? Isn't it times 10? It must be times 10. So if it's 800 square meters, it's 8,000 square feet, right? Johnny's figuring it out.
We can.
We have a research assistant here /
We have a research team. We have a research lab.
What's that, Johnny? That's not helping at all.
This is the math segment of the show.
This is the math segment. Yes, welcome to the. Can you figure it out?
I think what's really cool and interesting about your career is how you've moved from Canada over to Copenhagen, sort of started a new life here, and
Yeah.
obviously you have this agency now that you're building here, which is
Right.
is awesome. And
Thanks.
from my very limited time in Copenhagen so far, it seems like an awesome city, and I can't wait to see it more
It's one of the best.
this week. Can you speak a little bit about what that change has been like for you, the physically moving, and sort of what changes you've seen in your life since
Right.
you made that change?
Yeah, I mean, I really recommend people live somewhere else in another
Yeah.
country for a time.
Yep.
It really is an eye opener.
Yeah.
It's changed my whole perspective on life. It's changed my whole perspective on who I am as a person.
Mhm.
And I think it's incredibly vital that people get that perspective. I look at sort of some of my family and friends, and I'm not talking down about them, but I think that I look at sort of they've been in the same area their whole entire life, and
Yeah.
I go, listen, there's like a huge world out there.
Oh, totally.
And you need to experience it because it's only going to enhance your life and enhance your perspective on everything. The transition, I guess, going from the U.S. or going from Canada rather to here has been a bit difficult at times. I would say, when you leave and go somewhere else, you're going to, of course, miss your family and your friends. And
Right.
you have to figure out how do you make new ones and how do you build relationships. I mean, most of us have built our relationships either in school or in university.
Mhm.
Those were the most long-lasting relationships. Once you get past that zone, it's hard. People have things to do. They're busy.
Right.
They have families. They got careers. So
Yeah.
it is a little bit difficult, I would say. But I think if you're going to live in another country, you have to build a social network. You have to build
Totally. Yeah.
that sort of that group of people that you hang out with, and it keeps you sane. I moved here for love, so I have my wife, right, and she keeps me sane as well. But it's
That's good.
or insane, depending on which day it is. But
She just stopped listening.
yeah, exactly. Don't listen, honey. I mean, I love you. Don't listen. But I think my advice, I guess, would be do it. It's fantastic, but really lean into it. Really like say, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna try it out. We're gonna make friends. We're gonna experience everything we can about this,
Yeah.
and just go hard on it. So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Do you have you noticed any big differences from the business standpoint of running a business in Canada or the US versus Copenhagen?
Yeah. I mean, the scale is different, right? So specifically on the agency side, let's just talk about that because that's what I know the most about. But
Yeah.
the budgets are smaller in Denmark,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's not a lot of multi-million-dollar campaigns, or
Mm-hmm.
there are those contracts that you can get, the multi-million-dollar ones. They're fewer and far between, but they are out there. There's less company or less big companies that want to do marketing here, so it gets a bit. And there's also more competition. I think that it's because you're in a smaller area, you have smaller or more competitors in some way. So it's a bit competitive, and also the employment law here is way different.
Yeah.
You have to ensure that your people are protected, taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, you can't just let people go. There's some laws around that. So
Right.
there's actually, it's more, I would say it's more sustainable living, sustainable life and business here in Denmark,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't just like let people go. And also it's a very 9-to-5 culture, right?
Yeah.
So they don't like, I mean, our team works hard and I give them super credit. They would put in the time when we need to, but most businesses in Denmark are like 9-to-5.
Like
Right.
by the book. Like
By
they
the
shut
book,
down.
yeah. Like you can't, it's very difficult to get people to work overtime.
Yep.
And they don't necessarily, I mean, this is because this was also my mentality. I mean, as a business owner, I can now look back and go, wow, okay. But, you don't necessarily think of it as I need to put in a ton of hours to advance in my career. They think of it as like, if I do 9-to-5, I should still advance in my career. Right. So, and that's fine. And I think I think it's actually smart. People get to see their families. People get to go to yoga class. I mean, it's a balanced life. Right. But that is a bit difficult when you come from North America, when it's a little bit like, go, go, go all the time.
Yeah.
And you're willing to sacrifice more things, I think, if you come from North America. So it's been a bit difficult for me to transition to that and be like, okay, I have to understand that people don't work their faces off.
Right.
Right. We need that. We need that balance.
Yeah.
And that was a long answer to that
it
question.
is a key.
I'm sorry, but
No, we love long answers. That's,
okay,
that's
that's
what,
good.
that's what
Sorry.
the podcast is for.
People are sleeping while they're listening.
Yeah, we'll get to a yes/no segment later.
Okay, that's good.
So I have a couple questions about Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Mainly for our listeners in case they ever want to visit, but
Yes.
also for me for the next 24 hours.
Great.
So what to do?
Perfect. Yeah, I'll be your tour guide. Let's do
Okay,
it.
perfect. We'll go. We'll take we'll do a hop on, hop off bus. But
yeah.
First place, do you have a favorite restaurant in Copenhagen?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. What have I liked so far?
Or if you have a list of top 50 or 100, that's fine too.
Yeah, okay. I'll just slide those out here. That's tough. I really like. I'm a sushi guy, so I really like sushi.
Okay.
So any kind of running sushi, I'll take that. That's not fine dining, and that's not
right.
That's not like super great food.
Yeah.
But
or favorite food, I guess. Favorite type of food. Yeah.
In Copenhagen we have a place called the Meatpacking District.
So is New York actually.
Yeah,
probably slightly different.
Yeah, it's probably close to the same, but there's some great restaurants in there. The Nose and Tail.
Okay.
Is one of my favorites.
All right.
Simply because they serve a drink called Fanta Blanca, which is like it literally tastes like cough syrup. Like it literally is like medicine.
What?
But if you order shots of Fanta Blanca, your waiter or waitress has to do the shots with you.
No way.
Yes, so they have to. So if you order like 10 shots, they have to do 10 shots. So
that's insane.
That is insane, right? And they serve great food. Actually, anything in the Meatpacking District is great. It's off of it's in Vesterbro, which is, I don't know if you know, Copenhagen is separated into boroughs.
Yep.
Similar to New York, and so the sort of west area is called Vesterbro, and it's in there. It's the Meatpacking District. It was all like the old streetwalker. There's a lot of like, they've cleaned it up, right? They've gentrified it, but it was a pretty seedy area about 10 years ago. Excuse me, 15. But if you're going to go to a restaurant, go to Nose and Tail and have Fanta Blanca and throw up.
Okay, well, we'll do those things in that order later tonight.
Okay, that's good. You'll like it in
that's
there.
crazy. I've never heard of any place like that where the waiters and waitresses take the shots.
With you. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah,
well, that sounds like a good time. Maybe
it's a fun.
Might need to
place.
carve that into my schedule later today.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about favorite thing to do just in your free time in the city?
My favorite thing to do when I'm not doing this is I like to watch movies. I mean, I know that sounds like super boring and unactive, but
only if it's a boring movie.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but I'm just kind of a film buff. I really love film.
Awesome.
I love the medium. I love to see how people tell stories through that medium.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend most of my time, if I'm not with my kids or my family or working the business, which I'm doing like 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's doing, watching a movie of some kind and sort of, I really like to pick apart things and sort of re-engineer them. So I'm thinking about, how did they shoot this, or how did they do this, or how did they tell this story, and things like that, right? So so that's what I like to do. That's not really conducive to the city, right? Like there's tons of stuff to do here, but
you can watch movies here.
But I mean, if you're gonna do the city, you should bike it. You should really like rent a bike.
That's what my friend's doing right now.
Yeah,
Actually.
it's probably the easiest way to get around.
Yep.
And it's the funnest. Yeah,
Awesome.
just biking.
Yeah. It's been amazing. I mean, we've had to sort of look both ways, make sure we don't get hit by people on bikes. But it's a lot. It's rampant here, which is awesome.
Yeah, and bikers have the right of way, right? They're soft traffic,
right.
So
they'll just ring the bell if you're in the way. And
yeah, and they really take over. So yeah.
Do you have a favorite type of movie? Favorite genre?
Rom-coms.
Perfect.
Rom-coms are the best.
All of our listeners love rom-coms.
Yeah,
too,
yeah, that's good. I've hit the target then. I mean, rom-coms are great. I mean, no, I'm going through kind of a suspense phase right now. I'm going through the Saw stuff.
Oh yeah, that's some
that's
intense
maybe
stuff.
gore. Maybe that's not suspense. That's horror. But
Yeah.
I'm going through I'm trying to get my way through the Saw. I've never watched Saw. Like literally, this
Really?
is the first.
Not until recently.
Yeah, until recently. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going through the Saw stuff, and then
Yeah, that stuff's crazy.
and actually I started making this is not film. This is junk food television. But I started making my way through the Friends seasons.
Oh, there we go. Central Perk here.
Yeah, I started I don't know why, but I think it's because one of my friends invited us to a 90s party. And I was like, I got to do some research.
Yeah.
I don't remember the 90s that well. So I started I started going through okay, what was the quintessential 90s stuff? And that's, either Windows 95 or Friends.
Right.
If I could combine the two, that'd be great. But so I went with Friends, and now I'm hooked.
Now you're Friends junkie.
Now I'm just in now. Again,
Any Seinfeld as well?
No, I
very
haven't
loyal
gotten
to
into the
Friends?
Seinfeld stuff, but I should actually.
That's another good one.
Thanks, man. Thanks
Well,
a lot. Now
that-
I'm gonna be
of course,
stuck forever.
There goes your free time.
Yeah, there goes. I'm just gonna be binging.
Yeah, those
Seinfeld.
are, I mean, just on American TV, Friends and Seinfeld are on all the time. Like they still rerun all their episodes all the time. Like those are the two that come to mind from the 90s that were just
Epic.
huge.
Yeah.
And there's got so many diehard fans, but so that's awesome, and that kind of takes me to
How can you segue from that?
Oh, you ready for this?
Yeah. Okay. I'm ready to hear it.
So Friends and Seinfeld were a very creative show, and one of our topics that we love to talk about on the Wild Business Growth Podcast is unleashing creativity.
All right.
So this is a segment all about sort of how creativity plays into your everyday life,
Right.
and where it kind of leads to where the inspiration comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So first question is, how big of a role is creativity in your everyday life here at the agency?
I mean, it's everything. I mean, I would say that. I mean, creativity. I have a kind of a wide, maybe, spectrum look at creativity, because I think creativity is often put into a box of creative production, like graphic design or art or music or whatever it is. But oftentimes creativity is much also about how you run a business, how you communicate things, how you go after new clients, like sales. How creative can you be in that zone?
Right.
Can you put a new spin on how do we get, how do we introduce ourselves to new prospects and stuff like that, right? So I would say creativity is almost 100% of what I do. And what I think about is like, how do I do things in a new way? Excuse me. And add a spin onto it. And then, of course, here as an agency, I mean, all of our stuff is trying to be creative, trying to deliver a creative solution to a problem, right? A client will say, hey, we need to, get some more leads through Facebook. How do we do that? Or how do we, hey, take a look at our analytics. How do we raise our e-commerce sales, right? So all of that. And then we look at it and go, okay, creatively, how do we solve this? Can we solve it through better production of campaign materials or better data usage or whatever those things are, right? So for me, it's everything. Creativity.
Yeah, especially at a creative agency.
Yeah, it's like, I think I don't know, but maybe it's just my wide spectrum sort of description of it. But
yeah,
it's in how we build this podcast desk, actually, like
which is
creatively,
impressive, by the
like
way.
how do we put this thing together? Okay, well, we have to creatively think of ways of doing it, or at least Johnny does. I just have to sit here. So
yeah, shout out Johnny.
Shout out to Johnny.
How do you keep your team creative? How do you make sure everybody stays fresh mentally?
Well, I think one of those things that I think is really important is environment. So, I mean, that's why I'm really focused on building things now in the office and doing things around the office here to make it more of a creative space. I see a lot of companies that complain that we're not innovative or we're not about their own companies. They're like, hey, we need more innovative, creative people working for us. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you need to change your office first and foremost. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you hire creative people; they're not going to flourish in this environment.
Yeah.
So I always look at companies that are behind the times. I'm like, you guys got to upgrade your space.
Totally.
You got to give some people some mental sort of input, right? Because we're a product of our environment.
Mhm.
The other thing too is really about like hiring the right people that bring that energy.
Yeah.
There's some creative people that are very, I would say, introverts. They don't bring the energy levels up. Then there's people that are too creative, too introverts. They kind of like drown everybody.
Yeah.
You kind of have to find like a middle ground person that's like really creative,
Mhm.
extroverted in certain ways, and doesn't drown everybody, but doesn't bring everybody down. Like it's a balance, right? So I would say, hiring the right people, making the space creative, being creative yourself as a leader. I think that you have to be the thing that you want to see in your people.
Mhm.
Meaning that you have to lead by example, right? So if you want more creative people or you want more creative energy, you yourself also have to bring that, right? Because people want ping pong, people want sparring, people want to like, what I mean? We're all creatures of sort of social sort of things like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they had a leader that was just like sitting in a corner, like as an accountant, or like, no, I only know numbers. Like, don't bug me. Don't bug me
Don't
about
come
how
over
to
here.
make that poster or
Right.
how to make that podcast or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh crap, I don't know. Like, and then your whole
So true.
your whole creativity goes down. So you have to be a part of that as well in some ways. And I
Yeah.
think everybody's creative. You just have to unleash it, like you said,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, it's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
And how about you personally? So, in addition to watching Saw and Friends probably consecutively, what other things? What other
that'd be
thing?
good.
That would be quite the switch up.
Yeah, exactly.
What other things do you do personally to ensure that your mind stays fresh and that you're staying creative?
I am like a sponge.
Mhm.
Like literally, whenever I'm consuming content or I'm looking at campaigns or looking at competitors' stuff or looking at, even when I'm watching Friends or I'm watching Saw, I'm like looking at it and saying, like I said before, I analyze it and I re-engineer it in some ways. I'm always looking for, oh, that was cool. How do I apply that? And that's sort of like, that's the sort of way that I stay creative, is that my mind is always working on how do I apply things.
Yeah.
Like if I read a tweet from a friend or I see a post on LinkedIn about something, I'm always constantly thinking about, oh, okay, I could use that. And I think that's how I think you stay creative, is just, having that mindset of how do you twist stuff to your advantage in some way.
I love that bit.
Yeah.
Be a sponge.
Yeah, be a
That's right.
sponge, like soak it all up. And don't roll your eyes. I think a lot of people like will see, they'll go on Instagram and they'll see these girls with like their asses out and stuff like that. And they'll see guys like with their cars and their whips, and they're like, I don't necessarily like roll my eyes at that. I always go, oh, that's interesting. What's going on here in the culture?
Yeah.
Like where is that leading, and where's this, and how do I tap into that, and what does that mean for me, and what does that mean for brands, and what does that mean? Like, so I'm not like, I think a lot of people have their gate up instantly about stuff, and that ends up shutting them down to actually looking at it with a critical eye and actually looking at it with a curious eye, right? So I always go in with, for me at least, I always go in with, what that's weird. Like what can I do with that? Versus, oh, that's crap. I don't know, that's stupid. Like Saw. Like if I went in thinking like, most people would be like, oh, Saw, that's garbage. Like that's why were you watching that? That's crap. That's a waste of time. Right? I go in with, oh, that's curious. Why did this become so popular?
Yeah.
And I look at it and I analyze it.
That's a hell of a story.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really great point there about how just to not view things at surface level, that like, sometimes you really need to dig deeper.
Right.
Anything that you do sort of in that ballpark, like when you see an Instagram post that, piques your interest for whatever reason, are you usually looking at their accounts? Like how do you dig deeper into something?
Yeah, that's the thing. I always look at, okay, what's the piece of content? What's the history of content? So I'll go into the account and look at, okay, what do they what have they done in the past? What is the trajectory?
Mm-hmm.
What is the followers like? What is the quality like? Looking at the comments, the likes.
Yeah.
Like it's very easy also to find out who influencers you want to work with by going into their profiles and seeing, okay, how engaged are they? How, what's their community like? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And doing an analysis, right? So
Yeah.
it's quite simple nowadays to just get a cockpit view of everything very quickly, right?
Yeah, and I feel like it's becoming easier to get a quick view of, all right, who's actually, personally, posting their stuff and engaging with people actively, and who is literally just using all automation and not even present.
Right.
Which is like a totally different.
There's a lot of that going on. Right.
A ton.
I would say that and that's also something that I struggle with right now, that I've been trying to figure out how do I crack the code on. But engaging, social media for me has kind of become a little bit of a unmanageable monster in some way,
just
because
constant notifications.
Well, like when you get to a certain bit where it's like you're getting 50 DMs a day and you're getting 30 or 40 comments on each single channel.
Right.
It's like, holy crap. How do I manage to, because I would love to reply to everybody. I would love to like sit down and build that relationship. It's just not practical, right? So it's one of the things that I'm like really not super happy about. Yeah. And I'm trying to fix, but you've
created your social media monster.
It's difficult, man. Yeah, the monster's out of the box, and it's really hard to get it back in the box.
Well, on behalf of Hippo Direct, I thank you very much for responding to our DM, because this would not have happened without that. So
the DMs are easier to get to. That's for sure. I would say like they're way easier to get to than anything else. But comments are a bit difficult because just because they are.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What platform do you spend them? You mentioned you're really big on Instagram right now.
Yeah. I love Instagram.
What's kind of second to that now? Is it still Twitter or other platforms?
I'm really, really excited about what's going on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn's crazy right now. They're just changing everything, and there's some opportunity there for those who get in early and really, really work it. So I'm kind of on the sidelines a little bit. I've posted a few things. Actually, I did a video maybe last week that's up to, I think, 120,000 views.
Oh, awesome.
On LinkedIn. And that's craziness. I mean, who knows what the real data on that is, if it's 3 second views
or if it's full.
There's no retention data there, so I don't know if it's actually somewhat successful. But yeah, I'm really excited about what's going on LinkedIn. But I would say, I spend most of my time either on Twitter or Instagram. Facebook's a wash for me. I don't spend any time there. I can't seem to get anything going there at all.
Yeah, well, it's all paid. It's all
there's still room for organic and for people who do it right, but I've just fallen down on it completely. So I would say Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, and those are huge. Yeah, and LinkedIn, I totally agree. Is like they're making it way more friendly from a social standpoint. Like it's not just connections anymore and networking with people.
Right.
But I've always thought that it's so huge for people that are in B2B, especially because it's all business people, and it's you can see who's connected, and you just have that more personal connection with people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think they're making it much more friendly from like an influencer page perspective, right?
Yeah, they are, and I think they're also, it makes it easy to connect with people and see who they are, and there's more reality, I would say. There's a lot of, there's a lot of crap on other social networks. There's a lot of crap on LinkedIn as well.
Right.
But for the most part, they're trying to do a good job of keeping it fairly professional and fairly you know what I mean? So, so I think it's great.
Hi, this is Greg Brandstetter, founder of Hippo Direct. Has all this wild growth talk made you hungry for some new customers? Well, here's your recipe for success. Hippo Direct can help you acquire new clients using proven methods such as postal mailings, email marketing, and targeted ads on Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We can even create a customized leads and prospecting database for you. So check out hippodirect.com and contact us today.
I'm going to continue our trend of outlandish segues. So
okay.
So on that professional note, so a lot of people look to professional for advice and influence, and we're going to move to a segment here called inspiration. So people, hobbies, and resources, sort of who's been really inspiring to you and big influencers for you,
right,
as you were growing up, and also today.
Right.
running this agency. And so you talked about hobbies a lot earlier. How about from a people standpoint? Anybody,
Right.
like, who would you say is your biggest professional influence?
Well, Gary Vee is my biggest right now.
Yeah.
Probably. I think everybody's chasing the dragon that is Gary Vee.
He is quite the dragon.
And I think I'm pulling away from that a little bit now.
Mm-hmm.
I think like he was good for a time, and now it's like I've kind of figured things out on my own.
Right.
And now
you can't
like,
consume like, I mean, he has so much of his content. You just can't consume it all in this.
Yeah. Oh shit, I'm breaking it. Yeah, it's there's only so much you can, and then there's also places where I'm very, very much have a different mindset.
Yeah.
In terms of like but that's fine. I mean, that's how things are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my dad's been a massive influence on my life. He's also an entrepreneur.
Oh, awesome.
Me growing up, seeing how he did his thing, seeing how he grew his companies, and seeing his work ethic. I mean, we basically have the same exact work ethic.
That's awesome.
Which is good and bad. I mean, the good thing is that I can see what he did, maybe not perfect, and I can sort of learn from his mistakes, which is great.
Yeah.
If I can learn from those mistakes. And at the same time, I mean, I think, he's really taught me a lot, both on the what to do and what not to do side. So I think my dad's a huge influence. I also really love Grant Cardone. I think he's like, when it comes to sales stuff, he really like, when I first got into the agency side, like doing my own agency, I was like, I don't know shit about sales. I better learn.
Right. He knows a few things.
So I went to Brian Tracy, and then from Brian Tracy, you sort of like maybe can see a little bit of Grant, like obviously the algorithms are working in Grant Cardone's favor. So
definitely,
like you'll see some of
10X.
it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I go and look at Grant Cardone stuff, and I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Right.
So I think Grant Cardone really helped me on the sales side. I'm really like Andy Frisella, from First Form,
CFO or CEO.
Yeah.
He's the
the MF CEO project. Yeah, that's his
You could say
podcast. So I really love his approach to things. He's a no bullshit kind of guy.
Yeah.
So he's been also a pretty big influence on me as well. I think so. Yeah.
Those are awesome guys, and they're your point on the algorithm is so true. Like,
once you get
I
into
cannot
something,
look at my feed or timeline without seeing those guys as one of the first few. Like there's so much content. Like they've really sort of hacked that game. And
once the algorithm knows what you're interested in,
right,
then like for example, we have this makeup brand is one of our clients, and I had to do a ton of research when we first started working with them on makeup and makeup brands and stuff like that. So like everything across every social network for me was like tuned into that now. It was like I was like a 14-year-old girl or something. Like if people looked at my YouTube, they'd be like, dude, what are you into? It's like, oh, I'm really into doing my hair up in a bun, apparently. Like,
so you have more makeup ads than your wife's timeline does.
Yes, exactly. So I was just like, so it's funny how the algorithm really does that, right?
Right.
So
it does.
Yeah.
How about from a resources standpoint? Like, are there any websites or blogs or just other, content, social media accounts that are great resources that you like to check in on?
I do Ad Age. Obviously, like as an agency, you kind of have to follow what the big boys are doing and what sort of brands are moving and stuff like that. So Ad Age would be, I really like Buffer's content. They also do a good job of that. I'm listening a lot to the Joe Rogan podcast, the H3H3 podcast. Those are not really business resources as so much like media resources. They sort of have figured out, like as we're also doing more podcasting here, I sort of go into a mode of like, oh, I better research everything I can about podcasts. Yeah. Right. Totally. So like you mentioned Pat Flynn when we were talking before this, and I knew of Pat Flynn, but I didn't know he was so like prolific on the podcast side.
Oh yeah.
So now I'm gonna go, like after this interview, I'm gonna go just basically add him to everying.
Awesome.
And start consuming his content. So it really comes in ebbs and flows. Like when I get into a mode of I have to figure something out. It was the same with like video when we started doing makeup tutorials. I just go like all in and figure out, okay, what's the angle here on the makeup tutorials? How do we make that good? And then it'll be the same here for podcasts until I figure out and find a nice cadence to it. And then the next thing will come in. Like we'll have a client that is maybe in water distribution or
Yeah.
I don't know, like construction or whatever.
Virtual reality.
What it is, yeah, exactly, virtual reality, and then I'll just like go deep onto it and like
Yep.
really understand it, right? So
Yeah, and there's so many ways to learn these days. Like it's information is so attainable.
yeah, it's like I get a little annoyed sometimes. I get like questions on social media. Somebody will DM me like, "How do I do this?" I'm like, just Google it. Like there's a
Google it
like,
is, like, the
why
answer
am
for-
I your resource for this? Like
Yeah.
you'll get like 17 million articles about this topic and pick one and learn and like and there's no excuse anymore for sort of not having figured something out because it's all sort of there. You just
Right.
have to pick through it and find the needles in the haystack sort of thing.
Any question you have, Google it is like the answer.
That's the first stop, and then
Yeah.
like if you can't find the answer, then DM. I should ask people first when I get those DMs, like, how do I do this? I'll be like, have you Googled it? Step 1, have you Googled it? Step 2, have you like read everything? Step 3, okay, then I can help you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's there's checkpoints there.
Yeah.
Have
yeah.
you seen? There's a really funny website that is called. I think it's something like "Let me Google that for you." And so
yeah.
when somebody sends you a question, you can send them a link, and it's like a mouse going to it and typing
Yeah,
in Google
exactly.
for them.
Yeah. I need to do more of that.
Right. Just like an autoresponder that has that.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely.
I do want to give a shout out to Pat Flynn back for a minute because he was super helpful. It's getting this podcast up and rolling, and I can share with you later his cheat sheet that I was sort of using. It was,
I would
super
love that.
helpful.
That would be great.
So I actually saw it was actually through I think it was pretty soon after I followed him on Instagram. I served an Instagram ad again, like what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, like, thanks for following. If you're interested in the podcast game, check out my free cheat sheet.
Yeah.
And you just click the link, go and it, sign up, and downloaded his PDF cheat sheet. And it's like 14 pages. It's a few years old, but it's still really relevant stuff.
Yeah.
And it covers everything. You guys are obviously already set from the equipment standpoint and all that.
Yeah.
But like covers everything from equipment and stuff to do in the planning process to distribution of it and
It's
what
important.
hosting sites to use and everything. And it was just incredibly helpful. So I've had to pass that on for a few people. So sorry, Pat, if not everybody has signed up for your email list to get that because I've shared it a
You've
few times.
circumvented his email list.
Yeah, so here.
You're distributing his content.
What's going to happen now is I'm going to be
sure
sued by Pat Flynn.
No, I'm sure he's okay with it. I'm sure he's like, whatever, man, that's fine. Yeah. But what do you guys use for hosting? Is it Libsyn?
Yeah,
Or-
Libsyn.
okay.
Yeah, Libsyn's been great, and and it's pretty real time as far as you can see the stats. Like we can see our billion listeners. And
Yes, of
we can,
course. Where
probably
they're
2
located.
billion now. So
Yeah, of course. You're up there now.
we have suspiciously had a lot of European listeners recently on this vacation, which is
Okay, that's good.
not tied to me or at all. No, we have seen we've got a lot of international listeners, which is great. But Libsyn's great they have really good tutorials too. So they literally have videos for anything you want to do on that site, and shows you what to do to sign up for they can even I'm sure you guys will probably film stuff eventually and put it on YouTube, like the actual recording of stuff.
Yeah.
But they can even spit out a YouTube version that's just like your cover art and has the audio. They can even so
That's brilliant.
they have all these different platforms, and it has separate it has your stats for hosting through them, and it also has the Spotify stats separately as well, which is pretty cool. And so
That's awesome.
definitely
I'm
recommend
gonna
that
check
one.
out them. Like we haven't figured out that part yet. But
That's the one. And I heard about that. I think it was on the Pat Flynn thing, but it was also Gary V's audio guy, and a guy named Seth Feingers. Exchanged interactions with him a few times on social media, and was asking him about the sort of stuff they use, and he even included it in a blog for the stuff that they use for his show. And by the way, I think they use these mics. So
yeah, I think most it's a gold standard. Really.
Yeah, they're really good. But he also he recommended that one. He recommended some remote services to use for any calls. So there's a lot of helpful resources out there. And
we're thinking about taking calls as well and doing some Skype stuff, but we haven't figured all that baby steps.
The Ask Kubby show.
The Ask. Oh no. Don't ask Kubby show. That's
Kubby
what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the don't. I'm gonna give bad advice. Everyone's gonna be like, "What do I do about Instagram?" Auto comment everybody. Auto comment everybody.
There we go.
Auto DM everybody. Try to sell your Bitcoin. Bitcoin sales, Forex exchange, Slim Tea. Just don't Don't mess around. Just go all in on Slim Tea.
There we go. I think that we're well on track for the first episode here.
Yeah, exactly. Call now. I can help you sell your Slim Tea.
Let's move to a segment that we do all the time here on the Wild Business Growth Podcast, and that's the Wild Business Shout Out of the Week.
The Wild Business Shout Out of the Week!
Awesome.
So, Wild Business Shout Out of the Week. This is about a recent marketing campaign that one of us saw really caught our eye, and we'll share that and then talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, earlier you were mentioning a Jack in the Box campaign.
Yeah.
That had some pretty eye-catching stuff to it.
Yes.
Can you say a little bit about?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, they've used, off the back of the Me Too movement, off the back of sort of the cultural changes we're seeing right now, they've used, Jack in the Box has their new bowls, their new like teriyaki bowls, like bowls, like sort of Asian infused stuff, but
yep.
But and then they've sort of like made it sound like balls in the ad.
Yeah.
So like, hey, come try my balls and like that sort of thing. And then but they went like a little meta because in the middle of the commercial they have Jack, the Jack in the Box mascot, sitting in a boardroom with a corporate lawyer.
Yeah.
And the corporate lawyer is like, dude, we can't run this ad. Like,
God.
this is so like, so they kind of went very self-aware.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think a lot of brands are winning right now, is when they're really self-aware. So for example, we've seen this recent one with LeBron and Sprite, where LeBron's like, I wouldn't tell you to drink Sprite, not even if you're, and then you see the production crew, you see the people. I mean, when a brand is like really referencing itself, it's like Deadpool. Did you see Deadpool the movie?
Yeah.
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 So like Deadpool, why I think it's been really successful is it's because it is so self-critical and so self-aware and so meta, because it knows that it's a movie. It knows that it's a superhero movie, and it breaks the fourth wall in so many ways. And like, that's, I think, because we're so fed up with the BS, I think, in advertising and media and even in marketing, that when a brand can actually cut through that and say like, listen, we know we're trying to sell to you, we know we're advertising to you, then I think that actually does well. And that's why I think that ad sticks out for me, is because it's very self-aware. It's a good, funny ad. It's not trying to be like, oh, we're really helping the world by, selling stuff. And like, it's just very down to earth and sort of good old school advertising, but being the new school of self-awareness.
Yeah.
So that sort of stood out for me.
That's such a good point. The self-awareness, whether, we hear the term authentic all the time, and being genuine, and I think self-aware, that's the best way to describe it, as you noted. It just bodes so well in this day and age, whether it be a TV campaign or on social media. I mean, even if it's just a single post on Instagram, you can tell if something's, more genuine,
right,
and self-aware. And then I know Gary Vee talks about this a lot, but it's almost like a safer play and better play in this day and age is kind of just making fun of yourself. Yeah. Like, I know he talks about as one of the reasons why Drake has had so much success is because, I mean, literally everything Drake does now turns into a meme. Like, anytime he has a popular song, it's memed like crazy. Yeah. But he owns it, and like he owns it, and sort of, it's kind of like,
he doesn't
if you make fun of yourself, if you're fine like making fun of yourself, then it's going to be much easier when everybody else does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
and I think that's also, and I got to give Jack in the Box credit, because they didn't back down. Like, even with there was a little bit of internet outrage, which I think every ad campaign from now on will have internet outrage.
I think so.
It's just like it's like going to be a check mark on the brief for the agency. Create internet outrage.
Yep.
If you can do that, like, and they didn't back down. They're like, no, the ad is fine. Right. Grow up, people. Like, we're just having a little bit of fun. And they owned it. Like, they just owned it. They're like, you know what I mean? Whereas I think a lot of other companies would back down and be like, oh, we're so sorry. We didn't know. We didn't check it good enough against our target audience, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Jack in the Box was like, grow up, you sissies. Like, come on. Like, what's the big deal here? Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool.
The power of outrage.
The power of outrage, yes.
Did you see that the IHOP IHOB campaign.
Yeah, when they changed
I
to a
can't
burger.
think. That's like the biggest thing that's taken over the internet in
Yeah,
the
that was
past
actually
month or two.
well
and
done.
that was
Yeah.
and kind of on that outrage note, it was. I mean, obviously there was the curiosity factor, and people were were really trying to figure out what the bee was.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people were just kind of annoyed and outraged by it. We're like, this is annoying. Like, IHOB is stupid. Like, what are they doing this campaign for? It's really, but I mean, it took over the internet, and then you had, competitive food chains that were acknowledging it.
Yeah.
And
Kudos to them.
Diplo.
I mean, that's the thing. And they also realize that in this day and age, I think that a lot of brands are waking up, and old school brands, obviously like IHOP's an old school brand. Like they're waking up to the fact that controversy literally lasts seconds on the internet. Like we're talking about,
depends what type though, but it does
depends on what type. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, like if you're a Bill Cosby, that sort of should be around for many, many years, and we should never forget this. But I mean, like, okay, let's just take Pepsi as an example. Pepsi had that really tone deaf ad campaign with
Kendall Jenner one.
Yeah, with the Kendall Jenner one. Does anybody care anymore? Like the internet was like, boycott Pepsi.
Well, everybody cares about Kylie now. That's why.
Yeah, that's true. The first self-made billionaire.
Kylie, we'll get you on the podcast next week.
Please, I would really like to. I mean, like, kudos to her. I mean, she's really.
I mean,
she's done an
her brand
amazing
is
job.
taken off.
Amazing job of translating influence and celebrity into business. Like better than anybody's ever done ever.
Yeah.
So, really huge kudos to her for that. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the sort of discussion about Pepsi, I mean, like nobody like boycotting Pepsi that lasted like 48 hours.
Yeah, there's a lot of short
like
boycotts.
30, like how many hours? Like a day and a half. And then people were like, okay, but I just want Pepsi. I just want. I'm okay now.
If you're diehard loyal to it.
I was mad for like 20 seconds, but now I want a Pepsi.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's so true. So that was a wild business shout of the week. So thank you for sharing that campaign.
No problem. Go check it out, people. Go see it. It's a good one.
Yeah, Jack in the Box looking for sponsors. So we'll have a couple quicker segments here, sort of more fun, less businessy focus.
Yeah.
Which business is fun, but we'll kind of go in a different direction.
Sounds good.
So the first one here is called The Unusual. So pet peeves, phrases, and quirks.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that it's really interesting hearing people what things that really tick them off.
Okay.
Or things that they do that tick other people off. And there's kind of a wide range there. So first question on that, what would you say your biggest pet peeve is?
What is my biggest pet peeve? I don't have many. That I'm a pretty loose kind of guy. I don't have so many that bug me. Mm-hmm. I think this is so bad. I don't have a pet peeve. I mean, I
that's
think
your biggest pet peeve. No.
I think it's like, what is my biggest pet peeve? I think not having socks is my biggest pet peeve.
What do you mean? Like when people don't wear socks?
No, like when I don't have socks, I'm like,
oh,
damn. I'm like, why don't I have socks?
Oh, you read my mind. I was going to guess that.
When I haven't done, it's my own pet peeve when I haven't had time to do laundry. No, I think that my biggest pet peeve is people who waste my time.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of like, as a business owner, like you have a lot of people that are kicking tires and a lot of people that are like, hey, let's talk about, maybe doing something together, when they have really very little, opportunity for that or don't want to do that. So I think my biggest pet peeve, it pisses me off when people are like, hey, yeah, let's sit down, and you spend hours with them figuring it out, like talking about what kind of, brand they have and what kind of, and then they're just like, no, we're not going to do it now. Like, and it's like, you guys weren't going to do it in the first place.
Right.
And so I'm getting better at sniffing those out. I had one yesterday. I had two actually yesterday where I had calls with people, and I was like, early on in the conversation, I knew this is going to go nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that would be my biggest pet peeve, is just like people who waste my time. I don't have much, so I try to like optimize it.
It's so essential in this day and age.
Yeah, exactly.
How about, so this should be a good one because you have the Canadian perspective, you have the Danish perspective.
Right.
How about phrases? Are there any common phrases that you heard all the time in Canada that just kind of you just got sick of?
You got sick of? I mean, there's a lot of business speak out there. There's a lot of jargon.
Yeah.
I don't like jargon so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times you hear people using, the term big data, or you see people calling, oh, we need to synergize, or we need to I don't like jargon. I like people who keep it real, who keep, take the jargon out and really explain things simply and easily. So that's I think that would be the sort of phrases that I don't like to hear. Whenever I hear somebody speaking in jargon, I'm just like, you're so full of crap.
Right.
Can we move on to something else here?
Oh my God. And there's endless business idioms.
Yeah, there is. And it's just like, come on, really? Are we in this place now? So I think that would be it.
That's that one. How about from the Danish side, from anything that you noticed pretty quickly on that people say all the time here?
Well, it's funny actually. You'll notice this if you spend a large amount of time. It doesn't bug me, but it's just something I've noticed. The Danes will sometimes breathe in when they say when they confirm something. So they'll say yeah. They'll actually breathe in when they say yeah. Johnny's laughing. Our sound engineer's laughing.
Johnny
do you notice
that?
that?
Stamp of approval.
Yeah, it's so weird. They'll be like, yeah, you'll be like, hey man, do you want to go out tonight? Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's like, what? Where does that come from? It's all Dane. Like nobody in the world except for maybe, but I haven't been to every culture. But Danes, they do it, and it's not consistent, and it's not all the time. But every once in a while, this little comes in, and it's like, oh, that was weird. Never heard that before. So
I am going to listen very carefully.
Yeah, listen very
at dinner
carefully.
later.
Yep. If you got, you'll get a couple, I think.
With our server who's been taking 10 shots already.
Yeah, exactly.
How about quirks? Is there anything that your wife or kids call you out on for being odd or or peculiar?
No, I don't have so much peculiar stuff. Like, I don't know, quirks wise. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I would say I'm really relaxed. I'm really, really sort of calm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they would call me out on okay, we need to get some stuff done here. We need to move.
Do you have a pulse?
Yeah, we need to get something going here. We need to leave now. So I would say my wife is always frustrated with how relaxed I am. Specifically, if we need to go somewhere, I'm just chilling out, and she's like, "We were supposed to leave 5 minutes ago," and I'm like, yeah, but you weren't done either.
Yeah.
So
it's your fault.
yeah, it's your fault. No, so it really is my fault. But I think she would call me out on that. And I'm also this thing.
Yeah.
This thing is, and for those who are listening that don't see what I'm doing, I'm holding up my iPhone. It's playing too much or spending too much time on this phone is, I think, a lot of people's quirks right now. I think it's a lot of people's pet peeves is seeing people on their phone. And it's so I'm trying my best to leave it at home or just put it in my pocket and leave it alone. But it's a addiction in some ways.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't think of the exact stat right now, but there was some survey of things that people would rather have happen than lose their phone.
Yeah.
And I think almost half the people would rather lose one of their fingers than lose their smartphone and or not be able to there's a bunch of crazy stats like that.
It's that level now, right?
Yeah.
I think that's it. I mean, I think we need more calling out of that. I think more. I think we need to be a little bit more hard on ourselves, similar to how smoking. People always why are you smoking? You could say, why are you on your phone? Get off your phone. We're having dinner. Just
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they call me out on that, and I'm trying to get better at that. So
gotcha. Yeah, that's a good one. Do you ever completely unplug?
No, it's very difficult for me. Specifically, even I went on holiday a little bit this summer, and I got people messaging me what do we do about this? What do we do about that? So it's almost impossible for me now. But I'm planning it. I would love to take maybe not 2 weeks, but a week where I'm just no internet, no nothing.
Crazy to think of this day.
It's crazy. It is crazy to think of. Most people wouldn't do it, and but I have heard of a couple of my friends have done digital detox or whatever you want to call it, digital detox, and they said they loved it. They were this is so great. So I would like to try it.
We always get back on digital, right? They always. I don't think.
Nobody cuts it out completely. Yeah.
Right.
I did have a few friends that pre-Snapchat or pre-Instagram.
Yep.
Dropped Facebook. And they're just I'm not on. I'm getting off all social media. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But they did it, and they're still not on there to this day. And they're some of the happiest people I know. They're just why? living my life. I don't need to see,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like if somebody wants to send me a picture of their dog or their cat or their kid or their like whatever they're on vacation, they
Right.
will, and like that's fine. So
Right. Yeah. Send
Yeah.
them a birthday text as opposed to writing on their wall.
yeah, but basically, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
So we got one more segment here, some rapid fire Q&A if you're ready for it.
Hit me.
All right. Favorite type of music?
Singer songwriter type stuff. John Marish.
Mm,
That'd
yeah.
probably be
Is
like Ed Sheeran.
Oh, that was the next question. Your favorite artist?
Oh,
Was
my
it one of
favorite
those?
artist of all time is Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, yeah.
Like by far, like I've owned the most records and been to the most concerts for Dave. So
How many concerts do you think you've been to?
probably on the 20 mark now. Yeah, 20
Wow.
concerts, I think.
Awesome.
I'd have to sit down and count them, but
Cool. We'll probably
Yeah.
license one of his songs for the outro here. So
yeah, they just spend a couple $100,000 and get that going.
yeah, I think our budget will be okay.
Yeah.
Favorite movie of all time?
Oh, someone asked me this, and it's Zach and Miri make a porno.
Oh, no way.
It's like not artistic at all. Like it's not.
It's hilarious.
It's a funny. I think it's just everything just comes together in that film for me.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like it's really great.
It's a classic one.
Classic.
Do you now, or did you when you were younger, play any instruments?
I do still actually. I played guitar and I still play piano. I play a little bit of piano. Play a little bit
awesome.
of drums. I can
Little
make
bit
my
of
way
everything.
around the saxophone.
Wow.
I
You can
play
find a
harmonica.
saxophone.
Actually, I can play harmonica as well.
Oh,
I mean, I was
perfect.
actually pretty musical as a kid.
Yeah.
Actually, all the way until I was 26-ish. I had a dream of being a music recording artist
Yeah.
or a songwriter, like maybe selling my songs. So I actually have some. If you search Chris Kubby,
Yeah.
I think on Reverb Nation, I have a few songs there, so you can go
That's
check them
awesome.
out. You can maybe use them for this.
Perfect. Yeah.
yeah,
We'll,
you can-
We'll share out the links. Get your
yeah,
views up.
yeah, exactly. Revive my dead non-starting career. But
Started in the marketing world, and now he's the most famous singer of all time.
yes, exactly. That's the transition, right? So no, it's not gonna happen. But yeah. So I play a bunch of different instruments.
What's your favorite of those to play?
Guitar is probably my favorite, mostly because I'm the most proficient at it.
Mm-hmm. Acoustic or electric?
Mostly acoustic, right? So I played electric for many years, but
Mhm.
acoustic is just nice. You're sitting around family, friends at a campfire or whatever, like,
Yep.
or at home. It's just I'll probably bring my acoustic here
Mhm.
and play it. And Johnny's like,
John,
yes,
standing
Johnny,
standing ovation
yeah,
from Johnny.
Johnny's
on that
got
one.
his guitar in the back room here, so we'll probably have a jam session at one point.
Perfect.
Yeah, so
And then you can bring in the drums as well, but not for podcast recording.
no, well, yeah, we need like we'll do like sort of we should start doing our show a little like Jimmy Fallon does his, like have a live band or something.
Right.
Nobody does that actually. Nobody has a live band for their podcast.
That's a good idea.
That's
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. I guess
make
it wouldn't be live then when people listen, unless it's a live podcast.
It's a live. Yeah, we'll do a live podcast with a live band.
yeah.
Yeah.
On Facebook Live. Perfect.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's great. Do you have so I know you travel a ton.
Yeah.
What's your favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Paris is my favorite city of all time. Paris is.
Mhm.
I just think it's. I just love it. I think the food is great. The people are nice. The streets are so wide and so so varied. Is also is like there's so much to do there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to get around. It's very clean. It's very it's fairly decently priced.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of my favorites. Amsterdam is also brilliant. I mean Los Angeles is also super nice.
Yeah.
But I would say Paris is my favorite of all time right now, but that might change.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite sport?
Basketball comes to mind immediately. Like I think basketball is probably my favorite. I played a little bit in high school as well,
Mm-hmm.
but I played also football and I played baseball. But I think basketball's, if I was going to sit down and watch or go to a game, it would always be basketball. Yeah.
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 That's great. Do you have any team or players that you root for?
I mean, not anymore. I mean, I think that as I moved to Denmark here, I really got out of the whole North American sports, sort of zone.
Yeah.
So I don't even watch hockey anymore. I used to at least
No way.
get a couple of games in like a month or something like that when I was living in Canada. But I haven't seen any hockey for years. But I mean, back when I was growing up, the Chicago Bulls were just always the team, right? And then of course like the Lakers when Kobe and Shaq.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, I I like teams that are. I was a big Raptors fan as well when I lived in Toronto. So I think it's wherever you're living, and then obviously like.
Oh, totally.
Obviously, I like winners. I guess maybe
Yep.
I don't like the underdogs for some reason. I like.
It's funny. You mentioned
I like the winners.
You mentioned because I'm from Cleveland, which we have like a terrible sports history recently, except for late '90s, early 2000s was like pretty bad on all fronts.
Yeah.
And then obviously there was once LeBron came that like changed everything.
Yes.
And now we have the title, and
Right.
I literally flew back from Connecticut for the parade in the middle of the week for that championship parade. But so I had the whole LeBron thing, which was crazy, and now it's crazy this year because the Browns. I've never seen so much hype for an 0-16 team. It's like you would think that we just won the Super Bowl. It's
awesome.
amazing, but it's a ton of fun. The teams you mentioned, the Lakers and Bulls, like always killed my Cavs.
Yeah.
But they were just dynasties. I mean, they were so good.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, that whole just the whole legacy there, and also it was a fun time for me. At least like I can reminisce about it. You know, the whole Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan era, those kind of guys, and then Roddy coming in and stuff. So it's like, it's just a good time that I remember it. I got to get back into it because like nowadays I don't remember anything. Actually, I was a big Iverson fan for a while. Oh yeah, and I actually have the same. I have the same tattoo, the Georgia Hoyas.
No way.
Yeah, on my back. It's not. I'm not gonna take off my shirt in the middle of the podcast.
We'll keep the shirts on for recording.
But I've got the same. I've got the same bulldog tattoo as Iverson because I was a huge Iverson fan when I was like 16. So
yeah, he's got a diehard fan base. Like still, because he's still every now and then he'll play in that Big 3 league, the 3-on-3 league that Ice Cube has.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's like an alternate like second league that it's pretty cool because
I gotta check this
there's
out.
a lot of guys that retired in the last 5 or 10 years that can still play pretty well and are playing there.
No way.
Yeah, and it's on TV. I forget what channel, but it's like they doing like 3 to 6 hour sessions, something like that. So it's a ton of basketball.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, but Allen Iverson, I think I just liked him because of his attitude and also because like he was just like he didn't give a crap, and he's a short guy as well. Like, and I'm a short guy, so I was like, oh, okay, maybe I could be in the NBA.
That's like Post Malone and his White Iverson song. It's the same thing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make this challenging. If you were stranded on an island and could only bring one object, one item,
right,
and it couldn't be your smartphone, what would you bring?
Can I bring can it be a package? Can it be like?
Depends how many items. If it's like 3 items or less.
No. 3 items or less. If I could bring one thing and it cannot be my smartphone, I think it would be my son Quincy. I think
who's now considered an item.
Yes, exactly. Can I put people in or no? Does it have to
like
be
physical? Like
it has to be a physical item.
Yeah,
probably like a big box of beef jerky.
Knew it.
I figure I'm gonna get pretty hungry on that island.
Yeah,
I want to survive.
Never gets old.
I don't want to do the whole like castaway thing and like try to catch fish and stuff. Like it's not.
Just give me some beef jerky.
Just give me a box of beef jerky.
I don't even want a volleyball.
I'll be okay. I'll ration it out.
Yeah,
I'll make it work.
You'll make the Wilson volleyball face out of beef jerky.
Yes, exactly. Out of beef jerky.
That's a great answer. I definitely was not expecting
box of beef jerky. Send it. Lifetime supply of beef jerky, please.
Awesome. Well, that was rapid fire Q&A. Was that all right for you? Are you sweating?
Oh, no, I'm okay. It wasn't as rapid as I could have done it.
You know what? I am consistently getting sort of like every person who I put through rapid fire Q&A is always perfectly fine after. So I think I need to start having some hard hitting questions.
Yeah, you should be. Yeah, you need to add some more.
Yeah, the favorite type of music really gets people going.
Yeah, exactly. Makes them sweat.
Yeah, exactly. But so on that note, I think we can wrap up here. Kubby, thank you so much. This has been,
man, absolutely.
been an awesome time, a really fun conversation, and I think listeners will really enjoy the different topics we covered. And this studio, I know it's still sort of a work in progress, but it's awesome. And
thanks. It's really coming along. So we'll see how good it gets. We're gonna add some foam and stuff, but you're the maiden voyage, so I'm really glad that you keep coming.
Happy to be the guinea pig for the podcasting world here. So
super nice.
This has been so cool. Thanks again for hosting, and this is definitely our first Copenhagen edition of our Wild Business Growth podcast.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do more.
Before we sign off here,
Yeah.
I know, for anybody that doesn't follow you already, what's the best, what are your social media handles? What's the best place to contact you?
Well, I'm
Good
Chris
enough.
Kubby on everything, but I think start with my Instagram because it's probably the place where I spend the most amount of time, and you'll get my attention there and probably easier. So
Yeah.
go to Instagram.com/Chris Kubby. Hook up with me there, and if you're on Twitter, I'm Chris Kubby, and YouTube, I got a pretty decent YouTube channel, about 14,000 subscribers. I put out videos like maybe once every couple of months, so I'm not prolific there, but yeah. So find me, DM me, let me know you heard this. It'd be awesome to talk to anybody who's actually heard it. So just DM me and said I heard you on the Hippo Direct. So
Perfect. Wild Business Growth Podcast.
Wild Business Growth, of course. Yeah,
Presented by Hippo Direct. Yep.
Let me know you were on here or I heard it, and I'll
Awesome.
DM back.
Well, personally, I will DM you and tell you I heard it. And
Good. I hope you hear it.
Also, and for any listeners who do reach out to Kubby here, make sure to send him a large package of beef jerky because we know that will come in handy.
Please.
Given some extreme circumstances.
Send it to an island in case I land on that island.
Send it to an island and let them know what island it is.
Yeah, exactly. I'll try to make sure I'm stranded there.
All right. That was Kubby, and that was Copenhagen edition of the Wild Business Growth Podcast, presented by Hippo Direct. Just got to say thank you again so much, Kubby, and especially Johnny and the rest of the team for being such amazing hosts and so welcoming and sending over the audio files and beautiful pictures and everything that came with it. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to the Wild Business Growth Podcast. Please, especially on iTunes, make sure to leave a 5-star review. We're trying to get to 1 billion 5-star reviews by Friday. And with your help spreading the word, I'm sure we'll get there. So really appreciate it. If you have any comments or feedback or guest ideas, hit us up on all of our social media accounts. You can find us pretty much anywhere with the handle Hippo Direct. And if you like more content like this, especially some of the creative marketing campaigns we discussed, like the Jack in the Box one that Kubby mentioned, sign up for the Hippo Digest. It's our weekly newsletter that you can sign up on hippodirect.com/newsletter, and there's a lot of exciting, sometimes controversial marketing campaigns on there, similar to what we cover in the episodes. This has been another edition of the Wild Business Growth Podcast. Stay tuned next week for another exciting guest where we go to Japan. I'm just kidding. We didn't actually go to Japan, but maybe some point in the future. That being said, we'll see you next week. Let your business run wild. Bring on the bongos!